Hey, welcome to the Campfire Passport podcast. I'm here with our favorite producer, Colin. And then we're also bringing in our friend Luke, who everybody's heard before. And then our old friend Aaron, who's been our friend for a while but is also old. We're going to go over more of the Overland stories, which is going to be fun. It's going to take up most of our episode because we're going to try to get these guys to talk as much as possible because we think it's fun to listen to them, and we've been listening to them for a long time. So before we get started, let me pass it back over to Colin just to make sure he doesn't have anything that he wants to take care of.
The only thing I've got for this one is extending the invite once again for anybody that's a listener or follower to come along with us on the Grew Trail. Still have spots available. I can make promises that Steve is going to make some really good food that you're going to enjoy, as well as get some good wheeling in. So if you have any interest in that, feel free to reach out to us on the socials, whether it be a DM on Instagram or a comment on the YouTube page. Any of those will work. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Remember, you can always email Mike at secretsvp@gmail.com if you have trouble getting a hold of Colin.
Absolutely.
Show, I think, here with the four of us as our original group of overlandy people. And I think that our viewership already knows Colin and I well enough, and I think they know Luke well enough, that we'll give them some additional info, but Aaron, not so much. Aaron, I don't even know if Aaron's been brought up in conversation yet. So, Aaron, can you give me just a really quick, just very fast synopsis of who you are, and then we'll move to something else?
Sure thing. Yeah, my name's Aaron. I am the old man of the group, even though I may not look like it. The way you can tell is that I drive a 100 series. So, if that tells you anything, I am the old guy of the group. Nothing too fancy. So.
Oh, you fancy.
Very fancy. And it's got crazy low miles still, right?
Yes, that is my bragging point. That is one of the lowest mileage Land Cruisers in the U.S. as far as 100 series go. Because as we know with the latest accident, we were scouring the internets for low mileage 100 series. And there was a couple lower than mine, but mine's still up there pretty good. So, which I think I'm at 88,000 currently.
Okay. So
for a 98, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You're breaking into some mileage at least. You're almost broken in.
Right. Almost. Not quite.
Before we go to main topic, I think we should hit those two pieces of news. We talked about one of them before the show, and I think it's interesting, especially with Aaron here, because he works in that part of the industry. The other one, though, since we're all Volkswagen nerds, sorry, Luke, I know you're not, but you're here, so... deal with it.
I am. Actually, I'm the only one who works in the Volkswagen business. So.
Oh, yeah. So you're a big Volkswagen guy.
Yeah, big Volkswagen guy.
Used to work with those Beetles.
And actually, the planes are all air cooled for flat fours, so there's that too.
Yeah. Big air cooled guy. That's really the thing.
Yeah, big air cooled guy.
The new bus, or the ID Buzz, is kind of interesting because it's the same concept, I swear, that they've been leaking for 15 years. It looks fine. I mean, it's unoffensive. I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's terrible by any means. It fits. I'm curious to see how many people will modify them. I already saw one with a Porsche cargo van Porsche livery design. Super cool.
Yeah, like a Rothman's.
Have any of you seen it?
Style? Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
Colin has an
Google it
opinion
right
about
now.
it.
You mean just the van or the one that's done up in like a livery?
Oh no, just any of them. But the van itself is the like I've got it up here, and you know, it's kind of like
I
a
like
weird,
that.
almost a bus.
Yeah.
They made it
Yeah.
really flat fronted,
Oh.
but they didn't get the driver like over the wheels, so which I'm sure is like modern safety regulation stuff.
Overall, I think it's
A little
goofy,
weird
but
looking
I
for
can
me,
see how it's going to modify really well.
I think so. I think we'll be good. So we'll skip it because nobody.
Who's going to be the
nobody
first to do a VR swap in it?
Oh God, it's electric and it's on an extended ID4 platform, so that ought to be interesting. You'd think that it would have, because it's extended, it would have some sort of like much more battery, but I don't think it really does. Oh, they do. Okay,
Now-
86 kilowatt hour.
Volkswagen's really good about sharing platforms. Like the MQB is every SUV in the Volkswagen family, from Bentley to the bottom end of Seat. Is this on like a narrowed Taycan platform where you could put Taycan parts under it?
I don't think so. I think the ID stuff.
It'd be pretty
is
sweet
on
if it
its
were.
own. Would be pretty sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. The other one is much more exciting for what we talk about here, and it's the GX550, which I didn't even really know was the GX550 until Luke brought it up a half an hour ago. It's cool.
Yeah, I also don't like Toyotas that much, so.
I don't know. We're talking about it.
Here we are.
Here we are. Aaron, have you? Did you see that one yet? Did we talk about that at all?
The new Lexus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at pictures of that, and I had read something this morning at work that they were saying that they're possibly going to bring the Land Cruiser back under that Prado chassis, which I think that new 550 is built on. And so it basically just, I think it's similar to what that GR Land Cruiser is at 300 that you can get overseas. And so I'm hoping that they bring it back and it's that shorter wheelbase look. So, because I think it looks pretty decent. And the Lexus ones, tend to be a little much as far as like the bumpers and grills and stuff. But we'll see.
Yeah. It does have a rear locker, which is cool. One of the articles that Colin and I were looking at earlier was mentioning that it is built on the same. They've claimed it as same platform as Tundra and Sequoia, which is the 300 series platform. So maybe it's shortened, narrowed. I don't know. Maybe, who knows what the deal is there. But it looks smaller. Like Sequoias are huge, so it looks considerably smaller than that in pictures. So we'll see. I also wonder about like that. We talked so much about the new Tacoma, so we shouldn't push it. But those things have multi-link coil rear too. So I wonder if there's any weird crossover between those at all with that stuff. But who knows? That's wild speculation. Oh, which, who knows? Either way, I think we can all agree that it's going to definitely conquer mall parking lots all over America, especially on the West Coast.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure.
I see, lifted LXs everywhere here, like set up for like overlanding stuff. So, and like the current body style LXs. So I'm sure this will, being that they're already like pre-equipping it with, lockers and all of that, I'm sure it will be into this space pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's always been kind of like the weird Achilles heel of the Lexus add-on. Is most of the Lexus product, most of the LX like 570s, or all of the LX 570s, I should say, that we got, didn't get a locking, like a selectable locker. They had air suspension sometimes, or the hydraulic stuff, and that was the difference, which is probably better for the general person that's spending $120,000 on an SUV, but not so much for everybody that wanted to modify them. So it's cool to see them think
Yep.
that differently, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like all the Lexus trim stuff, the best they got as far as traction adders was the A-Track or whatever.
Didn't they get some form of crawl control on the most recent ones too?
I think so.
Yeah,
Because at the 200s, I think you could get with the crab walk that they can do, and so I'm pretty sure the Lexus had that as well. I haven't looked at them that close though.
Yeah, that's a weird Toyota thing where you work for a company that makes the exact same vehicle as somewhere else, and then you can't. Even the boxes say Toyota and Lexus, and there's no. Not for the employees. They're not Toyota.
Yeah,
Lexus,
every day
Toyota.
you get that conversation on the phone, people say, oh, well, you can't get this? No, it's got to come directly from Lexus. Well, it's a Toyota. Yes, I understand that it is a Toyota, but I can't get it unless I go directly to that store, so...
Well, our stuff's that way. I can look up Volkswagen. I have a Volkswagen catalog. My Audi catalog is also the Volkswagen catalog. I just have to click one button over. Porsche is a separate program, but... I can look up all kinds of Volkswagen stuff, and I can look at locations and dealers that have them in stock and all that. I just can't order them myself. It's just, you get a little red X next to a part number when you look it up that says it doesn't cross into Audi. It's pretty straightforward.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same with Toyota and Lexus. We have access to the Lexus catalog, and we can look the part numbers up and everything, but some of the stuff, mechanical will cross over, but for the body and trim stuff, it pretty much all has to come from them. So
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, like I said, I think that's something that we'll see a lot of with that Lexus. It'll be, I'm sure, SEMA this year. It's going to be 5 of them that are, I don't know, got some sort of prototype carbon fiber rooftop tent that's $35,000, but.
As long as it's got Wi-Fi.
Oh my god! A sidebar to that. Somebody convinced the Porsche sales department that they needed to order the official Porsche rooftop tent. It showed up today. We haven't unboxed it. But it's in a giant crate, and I'm sure it's like $30,000. They launched it with the 911 Dakar.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who it's made by?
I don't. We haven't unboxed it yet. It just says made in Korea. So,
It's only €5,000. It's not too bad.
Oh, €5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
It means we'll
That
mark
seems
it
low
up to
for
30 grand.
Porsche branded stuff.
I'm sure it's a roof nest or iCamper or somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is, but it's not interesting. You'll have to send us a picture, Luke. I'm curious.
Yeah, I will once we get it unboxed and thrown on top of a C4S or something.
Oh man, this is way off topic, but the 996 road trip guy, which I know Colin big eye roll, but he's got a GT3, a 996 GT3 that he put a tent on, and I give him credit. It's pretty neat.
I have a GT3 next to my desk at work right now that has the engine out of it, 996 RS. The guy, it has like 100,000 miles on it, and the guy drives the hell out of it.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, finally, somebody that drives their GT3 and doesn't just let it sit. Anyway, sorry.
It's okay. So that's a perfect natural transition to someone that lets their car sit with really low miles, like Aaron. So you told us just a tiny bit already. Can you? So what we're doing here is we're talking everybody through just kind of our origin story of how we got into off-roading, overlanding, that kind of thing. So, can you start really far back before, like way before we were driving or anything like that, of course?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's see if my old memory works here. So, like some of us growing up here in Oregon, in the rural areas, in high school and got my license, one of my first vehicles was a 4-wheel drive truck, Nissan Hardbody Luke. So,
Nice.
yeah, standard cab, short bed, 4-wheel drive. Had the little 3-inch lift on it, and yeah, us boys would go out in the woods and wheel around and mess around with the trucks and get muddy, and then kind of got away from that, got into the car thing, and was like, well, I kind of want something to go out camping in, and so this cruiser came about at my work, and I jumped on it and just started doing stuff to it and taking it out with the family, and never really got into a lot of like rock crawling stuff. I mean, I find it very interesting and technical, but I have no experience with it whatsoever. So I would think maybe Alex's WJ might be the candidate for that if things go right, but we'll see. So, but yeah, just general off-road stuff, nothing too crazy, and camping and just getting outside with the family and doing stuff, fishing and that sort of thing, and just kind of always done that growing up. And so coming over here to Central Oregon, it was really easy to kind of continue on that one now that it was a adult life and getting out and doing things. And so, and then everything, just kind of the way things have gone with how popular overlanding equipment has gotten, and it's just been a lot easier to get a hold of and research products, and so that really helped. And then obviously working in the auto industry where you have suppliers that are showing you new products and stuff, like you guys know. And so yeah, just kind of went from there and met you guys through the other car scene, and we all kind of had those same general interests, and so it made it really easy to kind of, hey, let's try this, you should come out with us and go do this trail or go check this out. So it's been a blast, so I know that. So
What, other than the opportunity of the 100 series that you got being such a cool, grab, did you plan that out at all? Or did you like, I'm just looking for anything when you started thinking about it?
yeah, I was it was more like size-wise because of the kids, so it was like I wanted something that possibly had a third row that we could use, so with kids and their friends and stuff, we'd take them out. And so we were looking at like Sequoias and stuff like that, Armadas, and it just it worked out with this thing coming into the lot on trade-in. And but yeah, as far as size-wise, that was kind of about the size I was looking at. And working for this company as long as I have, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to stick with that product and continue on with it. So.
Well, I mean, I don't have to tell anybody the Land Cruiser is the perfect size.
Does yours run yet?
Mine. We'll get to that. Aaron's.
I was hoping to get a video of it on Saturday.
God, I want it to be running, and I really am about this close, and that's very close if you're listening to the audio. But I had two little mishaps of small part issues. One that's definitely a part problem and one that's definitely a me problem. Both of those are resolved. It is fine. It turns over great right now, but I can't confirm that I have oil pressure because for some reason my factory oil pressure gauge is not working. And I consulted my favorite place, the internet, to which 5 people, no less than 5 people, responded to tell me about break-in procedures, which was totally my question when I said, anybody extend the wires to this oil pressure sensor and have an issue with it not working? But
so, not that I want to get too deep into the off-topic mechanics podcast, but like someplace like Mike's Auto Parts, that kind of thing, they might rent you a manual gauge to screw into that thing.
That's a good idea. So my adapter goes to 1/8" NPT, so I kind of figured I would just put a 20. Like if it just been sitting for a while and it wasn't all new, I wouldn't even think about it. I'd just turn it on. But I've got a little too much money and blood and sweat and tears into that thing to just send it. Like, it's got a lot of assembly lube. I know there's oil in there. I know it's sucking it up because it pulled everything out of the oil filter the first time. Like, it's working. But I would hate to lose it on a $70 oil pump. So, you know. That's probably...
I'm just glad I could help out with the starter comparison with the VR.
Oh my god.
Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna tell you guys this here because I've been meaning to tell Jesse, but I was gonna wait till maybe in person. Remember how he gave me a lot of grief? So, back up, I had sent a video to all of these guys of this, priming the engine scenario, which was plugs out, try to start it, right? And all I'm trying to do is get oil pressure and make sure that it actually turns, because this is all factory starter wiring that I'm like, probably works, I don't know, hopefully, and it does, which is great. But so I send this video of a little walk around and like a me with the key. It's great. Jesse says, that's not right, it's cranking slow. Kind of like the oil pressure gauge scenario where, like, that's not what I was asking. I wasn't even asking anything. I was just saying, look at this cool thing. And all of a sudden it gets ripped apart as, hey, you're doing it wrong. So
it's on brand.
That sends a cascading effect of everybody. And then beyond that, everybody else just sends a starting video. And we all, hilarity ensues, right? Well, a couple days ago when I was doing some stuff and I look down and I go, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me right now. There's one spark plug in still. One plug. Old number 4 is just right in there. So I pulled it out. And, man,
right.
You wouldn't believe how fast it spins with one plug in it. So, shout out Postal Service.
Much better.
I think that's as good of a time as any to tell my story. So then we can have Luke tell his story after that. I started like Aaron, and so I think that's kind of interesting. So like, I think both Aaron and I and Colin grew up in a part of Oregon that everybody else knows, which is, that's when you think of Oregon, you think of the Willamette Valley or Portland. And so like we all grew up in, not Portland, but for anybody that lives anywhere else, like Portland, right? Rainy, gross, trees everywhere, kind of Oregon. Right now, where we mostly live, other than Luke and Jesse, is Central Oregon, which is not even close to the same thing. So anyways, I grew up in that same redneck, backwoods kind of Oregon as a little older kid. Not when I was not born there, but anyways. So I was around all that stuff too, mud trucks and hunting and all that. Like that's where I understood the off-road world was mud, basically. And I didn't really like it, to be honest, but I really like cars. So I rode around with my stepdad and we did, elk hunting or whatever, and you go on these crazy roads and it's muddy and it's snowy, and I loved it. Like that part I really liked. So the adventure and that kind of thing. I grew away from it as I got a little bit older because I got really into BMX. That was really my world, and I still loved cars, but the truck portion of it was kind of just a thing. It was whatever, like trucks are fine, but I didn't really want to do off-road. But because I was so into bikes, my first vehicle was a Chevy S10. So I had a extra cab short bed 4.3 S10 4-wheel drive. It was sweet. But I did no off-roading. I got stuck in a field one time in the snow at my own house. So that was pretty cool. That was like the only off-roading I did. All I did with that truck was put 4 to 6 bikes in it at a time and do burnouts because it was amazing at doing burnouts. So I got to learn how to do that. I guess I learned maybe on dirt bikes, but I learned how to do it in a car in that S10. Like, that was the thing. And after that, I got rid of it and got a Volkswagen and never looked back, really. I thought about building like a rock crawling kind of thing at some point, kind of when Luke was around and some of the other guys that were doing a little bit more off-road stuff when we were doing a lot more car things I kept thinking about. But I didn't really like care all that much. The shop, Overland stuff, got so popular, and really like all of our friends started to kind of look at it a little bit, and it was so big in Bend, and so like we had Cascadia vehicle tents starting up, and like a bunch of little things all at the same time that made me go, this is pretty cool. And one of our other friends had bought a Land Cruiser that is exactly like mine at the time, and I started to like it a lot. And so I had a mishap with my car and hit a deer, needed another vehicle, and I was pretty over dealing with Volkswagen crap at that point. Still loved them at that point, but like it just got old. It got really, I got really sick of dealing with window regulators and whatever, just all this stupid stuff. So I was like, I gotta find something else here just for a little bit. I think it might have been getting closer to winter, like it was the fall or something too. So I started looking for Land Cruisers, and I pretty quickly honed in on, just like I do with anything, and I think a lot of us have this sickness, like I really went down the rabbit hole of like what I wanted, what the ideal one was for me, and so it ended up being something with lockers. That was like the big thing, and something with reasonable miles on it and in decent shape. And so I found mine, and compared to the way it is now, it was in really good shape. It all worked. It had been like dealership maintained. Like it was awesome. And so I got it, and I test drove it from this guy's house to a church parking lot, where I put it in low range and turned the lockers on to spin around in circles and make sure they worked. They did. I was like, all right, bought the thing for what would not. Drove it to so it was in Seattle, in Bellingham, or not Bellingham, Bellevue, and we drove it to meet with Mike. It was Mike Palmer and I, and we drove it to meet who is now my future brother-in-law, which is his best friend, at Pacific Raceways. We picked up Justin's like 3-place triple axle race car hauler and stuck this Land Cruiser in. It barely
enclosed
fit.
trailer.
Enclosed trailer. Yep. And carted it home. And the first time I really drove it was from Bend Auto Wreckers to my house at like 1 a.m. And I remember pulling out onto Highway 97 and just going, what did I do? This is the slowest vehicle I've ever driven. I did figure out, I don't know if you guys remember any of this, like from being around the Land Cruiser, but like I did figure out the little ECT button at that point and how much that actually changes the driving experience. Yeah. So I finally hit that, and I was like, all right, it's fine. And then from there, I was really lucky to be neighbors in a complex with GFAB Motorsports with Graham, and I got a lot of bad influence on rock crawling and awesome off-road stuff. And I, like for like a year, maybe 2, we did a lot of that stuff, and it was fun. Like, that all the beginning modifications of that rig are from that time frame, and they really set the stone. And I think all of us got to experience that in some way or another, which was really cool too. But pretty quickly, like I've thought many times about getting something different and moving on, but I get really attached to cars. And I, in the last year or so is when I really decided, like, I'm going to just keep this for a while and really go all in. So I've got it torn down and big LS motor going in it now, which I was just talking about. It's about to start, assuming it's possible to start it. And that's it. I think the future of that thing is some suspension refresh next year or something once that's all dialed. But otherwise, I could build another one, I feel like. Although, it'd be nice to use it. But we'll see. It's only been, 6 weeks? I think I've only had it down for 6 weeks. And I thought 6 weeks was my time frame, so I feel pretty good about that right now. And obviously it's not together, and it could be another 6 weeks, but I think I'm close.
Yeah, let's get
assuming
some use
everything
out of
works, which who knows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long-winded.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, I look forward to see it running because I want to see it. I want to see how quick that thing moves.
Who knows? Hopefully, it's fast enough.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
that's going to be a surprising change.
Yeah.
And no more burnt oil smells.
Yes, I don't think so. God, I hope not. That was like,
Well, we can't make any promises on that
No.
yet, but
Now you just gotta ride behind people like me when the DEF is being injected.
there you go.
Everybody tells me it smells horrible.
I can't tell over the smell of my own vehicle, so. I did delete my. Maybe I shouldn't say this, I just realized, but I deleted a certain emission control thing on my vehicle.
Don't say it.
And it's really old, so it would be exempt in a lot of states, I think. And I'm a little concerned about it smelling like gas, but whatever. Well, I saved it just in case.
Takes on fuel really quickly.
Luke?
Easy to fill. Well, I've been playing around with vehicles in the dirt since forever. But with motorized vehicles, probably like 12, 13, getting dirt bikes, ATVs, that kind of stuff. So I've always kind of done that. And we always, my family always had motorhomes. So like camping every weekend throughout the summer was pretty standard for us, and a handful of like the big camping. Granted, some of that camping's in like, some of it's like Forest Service campgrounds. You go to the lake, you ride your bikes around, whatever. Some of it's KOA campgrounds when you go to the national parks or whatever. But several like big summer trips where we'd go from spot to spot to spot to spot. So that's always kind of been built in. Like I've always been kind of prepared for that type of thing that we do now that we call overlanding. It's just a lot more off-road now instead of 35-foot Winnebagos or whatever from down, from freeway to freeway, I guess. As far as the off-road side goes, I remember as a little kid going scouting a hunting camp with my dad and my dad's friend Pat in the Oshikos, and so bookmark that. And climbing like some of those really steep like side hills and stuff in a like 93 F-150 in the backseat of an old F-150. And just remembering how much I enjoyed that, like how much fun my brother and I as little kids had doing that. And that translated really easily to then when I learned how to drive. I don't know, that always stuck with me. And learning how to drive off-road in like Frontiers and Xterras and stuff, because that's what Dad had. So then my first car was a hard-body Pathfinder, so commonality there, Aaron. I had a 95 Pathfinder. And Butters and I were playing out in the China Hat play area every minute we could get a chance to. Doing donuts and climbing the hill and trying every which way we could to break our cars. He broke his little S10 Blazer a lot. I blew up power steering pumps in the Nissan, but that was about it. Like 3 power steering pumps.
Oh my god.
But, that turned into, an Xterra when I lived in Phoenix. And everywhere around Phoenix, like, every direction you go in Phoenix is, like, places to play around in the desert. So did a lot down there. And most of it's just, like, during the day going out and off-roading and just kind of, like, playing around on the rocks or in the sand or whatever. That turned into a Frontier, which turned then into a Ram 1500, which is not an ideal platform.
That was a weird side thing you did.
Like that. The Frontier was awesome.
That was a weird side move, the Ram. I remember that truck and just going, what is he doing?
Well,
yeah,
it was for work, It was the, because a lot of my cars have been like work demos from, because we owned the company, that it was like, hey, we need to trade you out of that Frontier because we have a buyer for it. So here, go pick something else. Why don't you take a Ram? We have one we need to get rid of. So I had that quad cab 1500 for a while, and the horsepower is awesome, but otherwise that truck's pretty forgettable. And so as soon as the opportunity came up for a Wrangler, it was like, all right, we had some weird custom ordered JK that the guy backed out of because it's a manual Sahara with heated cloth and like the low gearing, which you shouldn't get with a manual, and
what color
black
was it,
plastic Luke? Instead of painted. It's orange or yellow. It's called Dozer. It's the same color as a Caterpillar. And anyway, it was a weird package, and the GSM was like, hey, we need to get rid of that thing. It's like the last of the old model year JKs. Why don't you go take that one? And it was like perfect. And suddenly that was like, I knew through Sean, I got to know Graham, and I had already known Graham's girlfriend at the time, Kate. We've known each other since we were little kids. And Graham was like, why don't you come out to Hoodoo with us? And so I went and camped with them for a weekend and got to ride in the back of Green Truck in the middle of the night doing some night wheeling, night rock crawling, and some real rock crawlers, and kind of got hooked to doing that. And all of a sudden that turned into, thankfully, the JK platform. There isn't a nut or bolt on it that somebody doesn't make aftermarket that you can improve upon in some way, shape, or form. And it's a really expensive rabbit hole to go down, but it's also a really fun one. So I highly recommend the JK's platform. It's also a cheater chassis, as Robert Foster can attest to.
Oh my god!
Stock one can do just about anything. It's the S13 of the off-road community. But so all of a sudden I've got like 85,000 miles on a JK, and I beat the hell out of every single one of those miles. And Gladiator Diesel was coming, and it was really, really tempting to get one, and I pulled the trigger, and I love it. So here we are with a Gladiator Diesel with a GFC. It takes about 5 minutes to set up camp and about 15 minutes to tear it down. And it really, like, weather is not an issue. Like, we went camping last weekend in the Black Hills, and weather was kind of garbage, and so we just sat in the bed of the truck with the tent up, and it gives you all kinds of, like, a lot of extra space and all that. I'm really enjoying that as a platform right now. But that's like a brief history of me off-road. Is like, the car stuff is cool, and I enjoy the car stuff, but off-road's kind of more where
I think that, like, early on I had pinned you as off-road guy and race guy. That's like, you're a little bit more on that end. Function over form and a lot of things. Yeah,
the central
like, the car stuff is fun for me if I'm going as fast as possible. Cruising in lowered Volkswagens doesn't really do much for me.
It's not for everybody. JK that I definitely can't dig out right now, but all I can think of is the time that we had to leave it at Klein Butte because those lower links like broke in half on the gnarliest little entrance.
Oh my god. I had twisted the stock lower links.
So we had to back it off that hill and leave it to go get a trailer because it was not going anywhere.
Well, and then do you remember how that ended?
There was an issue with the trailer,
We went back to... Mike drove us... Well, so either you or Mike drove us back to the... Let's see. We went back to the dealership. We got a truck. We got a trailer. And then we took the trailer down the power line road to winch the Jeep back on. With the Jeep on the winch, we winched it onto the trailer very carefully. And then we replaced the control arms while it was still on the trailer to get it off of it. Because you couldn't drive it backwards, or it would twist the axle. I remember
that.
It would break the it would have broken the drive shaft in a way that
It was quite the predicament.
without the drive shaft, it would have wrapped the axle upside down.
Yeah.
It was
That place has
it
lots
was
of
pretty
good
fun.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to
there's
test
lots
it
of
part
you
on
went
lots
for
of
a break
memories
in
of
the
you
phase.
breaking that thing.
You really did.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Good times.
All product testing, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to test a part on a JK, just let me borrow it.
Just let me borrow it. Yeah, well, just like anything, about the time that it should have been just about bulletproof is when you were like, okay, I'm done with it.
I'm done with it. Get rid of it. Gladiator diesel, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
No, we don't treat it like a buggy. We don't hop over rocks that are bigger than it. So,
Not yet,
a little
anyway.
different, but not yet.
That's coming.
We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta talk to Colin. Maybe not after the podcast, maybe this weekend about that next big thing. So. With that
Well, I'll be there.
being said,
You guys know I'll be
good.
there this weekend.
How about? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
First time hearing of it, but okay,
It's gonna be
cool.
awesome. Luke,
Well.
Luke live and in person.
I'll be live and in person this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah. Come see at the.
Where are you gonna do your
I'm
set?
not gonna give the address to that because he's got a tight time.
Oh, you don't want to
I've
give
got a
out
gonna be
your
great.
I've
address?
been working on. Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Southeast.
Southeast. Yeah, we'll be in Southeast.
Just give out
Colin,
Mike's
what
address.
about you?
Oh, me.
Secret RSVP.
I mean,
gmail.com.
I guess it's a decent transition talking about Jeeps because despite my more, I guess I would consider it, the less popular platforms
Weird.
that I typically pick. My start was in Jeeps also, which is, I mean, not super uncommon. But like as a kid, family and I were always camping. Like every summer we would actually, because we lived in the valley, we would actually come out to this area and camp on the lower Deschutes. And that was just, friends and bikes and camping, fishing, all that stuff. And that kind of got me into, one, being in this area, and then two, the camping side of stuff. Once I was able to drive and had a little bit of pocket change from working, I made decisions to, choose my own vehicle. And so my first, four-wheel drive was an old YJ Wrangler, and it was an early one, so it had the 256 carbureted 4.2 liter in it. I did the classic kid stuff with it, doing stupid mods and doing the old the hick four-wheeling, and I think what kind of got me more and more interested in doing off-road stuff was me taking my dad out in it, and I drove it out through this weird area because we lived out in Hick Town, so it was easy to find muddy roads and stuff. And he came away from it impressed that I drove it well off-road, and impressed with how well it did off-road in general. So from there, I was good to go on that. But like you, Sean, I was more of definitely more of a car guy. I like stupid low stuff because making driving hard on just the regular roads, that's what I'm into, I guess. But it was every few years I'd get on that kick of, I should probably get something that maybe has 4-wheel drive and some ground clearance because moved down here and all of a sudden it's snowy winters and lifting your lowered car every winter gets really old.
God.
So it was like 13 years ago. I got another Jeep, but it was a WJ, and I really liked that thing. I did a lot with it for what it was. I think they were 33s with no lift. And then I went to Moab because my wife had family there, and that probably was the real jumping off point of, okay, I want to do a lot more of this, because I got to do some like Moab trails that were probably ill-advised for my vehicle, but I did them anyway because why not? And then I also saw my first rooftop tent around this time, and I thought that was a really cool idea, and so that was like the first little pieces of the overlanding world that I was getting, was seeing that rooftop tent, and I thought it was a super cool idea, but at the time they were near impossible to get, and if you could get them, they were easily as expensive, if not more expensive, than like the really nice ones you can get now. And then it was like, oh, hey, we've got 5 of them, and they were gone really quickly, and they were way too expensive to begin with. So count your blessings these days with how affordable, even though they're expensive, how affordable they are now, because they did not used to be this kind of pricing. After that,
just real quick,
go ahead, Luke.
Before you get into the too deep into like the conclusion here, that the rooftop tent thing, I forgot that part. I don't know, Sean, you had one. Who had one first?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Alex maybe convinced you to get one.
That seems right.
Or you borrowed one from Alex?
I did borrow his first.
I thought Colin had one first.
Colin had one first.
I thought, because our first trip out.
I just remember saying, that sounds stupid.
Look at you now.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of my sidebar. I don't remember who started it, but I remember looking at this box on your roof and going, that's dumb.
I'm pretty sure Colin and I around the same time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was pretty close, because I after a little hiatus away from having a 4-wheel drive, it was like right after Sean got the Land Cruiser, and that kind of gave me the, well, I should get another one too, because I want to go do some off-roading again. And so this is where my my deep dive into the not popular platforms really started, because I got a Disco 2, and I loved it, and I did a lot with that. I thought I was a total genius, because like Luke said, that box on your roof is stupid, and how are you going to use that? So
let's put it on a trailer.
With all the wisdom in the world, got a trailer. Exactly. I got a truck bed trailer, and I put it on top of that instead.
That's also stupid.
I went to Moab. Good. So it is, yeah. I went to Moab with it, and it was, I will say, it was nice to pull into a camp spot and unhook it and just fucking leave it there, so that I could then go and do some trails. And again, wheeling a stock Disco 2, everybody, through
Stock
some
Disco
trails
2, everybody.
that I had never done, and was completely by myself. So just horrible choices all around. And that really, that was a lot of fun, and that got me deep into it. But I did come back from that trip and say, trailers are stupid as shit. I'm putting this tent on my roof, because I don't want to deal with that ever again.
Hold on.
Um,
Hold
And then what
on.
happened?
Hold the phone for 1 second. And we might be getting there, but I got to just throw one little thing in here because that was not the last time that tent was on a trailer. There was another time.
no,
Oh, it ended
there
up
was
on
another
the
time, but
trailer.
we're not there yet.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yeah,
Carry on.
it was on my roof. Yeah, because it was on my roof,
That's where it
and
started.
my family and Natasha, or my family and Natasha, my family and Tyson and Kate went to the beach, and we camped on the coast. And it was literally the first camp trip I did with the tent on my roof. And of course, so we're camped like right on in a campground at the coast because this was early. We didn't know about a lot of the camping areas, but because the tent was on the roof, I had no cover from any of the wind. And of course, that night was 60 plus mile an hour winds, and it was crazy. Tyson has some lovely stories about his ground tent in that same storm, but we ended up getting out of it and closing it and sleeping in the back of the car because it was gnarly. I haven't been in anything like that again. After that, I had a blister fender Montero, which also was super cool. Was more capable than the Disco, but probably because of the way I built it is why it was more capable. And then
Is that the one that
that's
you had
probably
the
the one I
mismatched
should have
wheel
kept.
with the wrong lug nuts?
But on one of our trips,
Oh,
when
yeah.
I got the flat tire, when that
thing was awesome.
when that stick staked the center of my tire.
Yeah, that Montero
I
is sweet.
loved
I
that.
love that thing.
It was a good one.
Except for that 5-minute
I-
period where it was a pain in the ass, it was awesome.
Yeah, that thing was totally awesome. I advocate for Montero ownership all the time because they are good rigs. Then I went back to Land Rover because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I had the L322 Range Rover and did a lot more with that than pretty much anybody has ever. And recently sold that, and it was pretty sad to see it go because that thing was really good, but I didn't feel like it was off-road ready enough. It felt slightly too in the soft lane for how hard we like to use our rigs. So that's when a LS swapped Wagoneer came about, and I jumped on it pretty quickly because the guy kind of held it out for me because I was someone local that that I showed interest in. So that's where I'm at now. But I mean, the reason we're all here, I guess, is to talk about that overlanding thing and how we got into that. And it was pretty much I had the Disco. It was right after Sean got the 80. Aaron had recently gotten the 100 series, and then Luke, he had the Jeep right around then as well. And I caught wind of the Oregon backcountry discovery route, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. That'd be interesting. And so I looked it up. Was completely unwilling to spend money on the maps, so I kind of cheated the system and mapped one of the routes, which goes across the Ochicos, because that's really close to our area. I figured, oh, well, that's really close. We can just try it and see what it's like. And so I mapped that whole thing using Google Earth and paper motor vehicle use maps, and then got the four of us together to go and do that. And we ended up doing that. Basically, it was Route 4, and we basically did that with me looking at a paper map the entire time. We didn't have the fancy GPS stuff yet, so we definitely made some errors in our early days. One of which was trying to put a transfer case in the disco the week prior to the weekend we were leaving, and I remember Sean telling me, "Oh, it can't be that hard. You should just do it. I think you'll be able to get it done."
That sounds like
and
me.
then that led to Sean coming over and trying to help me get the transfer case in, and that didn't happen either.
It wasn't that easy. It wasn't at all.
Yeah, it's that damn drum brake on the backside of it.
Yeah, no one told me that Land Rover transfer cases weighed twice as much as every other transfer case. And I also don't think that I understood that your driveway had like a 30-degree angle either. That wasn't really...
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah, that was pretty gnarly. I was just looking at old pictures of that.
That's how the roof tent ended up back on the trailer, because I still had the trailer because I was just using it for like yard debris and stuff. I think we chose that because we could have put it on Aaron's car, but Aaron had the box.
Yeah.
It was a truck bed. It was a Ford Ranger.
It was a Ford Ranger truck bed with scaffolding.
Mm-hmm.
Very small scaffolding. Yeah. Like 1-inch square tube scaffolding.
Oh no, it wasn't 1 inch. Those were. I still have some of that material. I think.
Half inch.
I think it was. I think it was 2-inch square 80 wall.
You forget the best part, Luke.
Yeah.
It was orange.
Oh yeah.
It was orange.
It was orange.
And it had the and it was a former tent manufacturer's trailer, was it not?
It was.
Yeah, it was a CVT showroom trailer for like the first part of its life, so I bought it from Bobby.
It was the first CVT trailer. I think the quality's slightly better now.
Yep.
That was was quite the experience.
The stuff I remember from that trip. Yeah, well, since none of us were really like well versed in any of it, I remember us getting out there and finding out when we got out there that it was opening weekend for deer season. And so it was just like there were tons of people out there, and I was like, "This is weird. There's not supposed to be anybody out here." And then start hearing the gunfire and whatnot around us, and then some random car drives by with a deer on its roof. And I think at that point we really knew.
Yeah, it became a little more obvious.
I remember
Saturday morning, not Friday night.
I showed up the second day. I didn't show up the first night. I had something going on. It was something with the dog or whatever. But I showed up Saturday morning, and it seemed like it was really lucky that anybody got that campsite, and it was wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it rained overnight.
But.
And that was the start of First Night Aaron.
I missed First Night Aaron that night. Yeah.
That was like the very first one. Yep, that's how the legend began.
Yeah.
That's how the legend started.
Yeah, waking up saying, "Man, why does my head hurt?" And calling points to the empty bottles laying on the ground next to the truck.
Yeah,
that explains it.
Oh my god, that's really funny. I forgot about that. Oh wow.
I've been trying to go through pictures here to see if I can figure out when I actually got my tent, and I don't know. Oh wait, there it is. Definitely 2014 at some point. So and that trip was.
That sounds right.
That trip was 15, so we had it a little bit because you had already taken yours on the trailer to Moab at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, that was.
I just remember me and Alex tried sleeping in the back of the Land Cruiser with all the seats folded up, and I said, "Yeah, this sucks. Nah, I need a tent."
And then you bought the giant one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the McMansion.
That was more of the wife's doing. She said, "Well, if we're gonna get one, we're getting one big enough for all of us." So we had to get the 4-man behemoth that had Wi-Fi.
That Wi-Fi. Built in Starlink before it was even a thing.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, and then Aaron also had his first bit of adversity
Oh, God.
on that trip as well.
And I would like to point out that is the only time my vehicle has failed me, and that was only because of installation error. I had done the Old Man Emu springs before that trip, and the rear track bar bolt, the upper bolt, had fallen out on one of those. I think it was the road going up to the fire tower, because that road is horrible. And somewhere along the way, the bolt fell out, and you had hopped in, I think, Sean's truck, and I was trailing everybody, and all of a sudden this horrible wobble starts, and I'm thinking, what in God's name is wrong with this trailer? And I couldn't go over like 20 miles an hour. Finally caught up with you guys, and we thought, of course, it was the trailer that was broken. Lo and behold, it was not the trailer. After we did some rearranging of
yeah, we put
equipment,
everything in my vehicle.
next thing we know, it's
And some road
Well,
testing.
no, did the roof box end
yeah,
up
some road
in
testing
loops?
was yes.
Yeah.
took-
So I'm sorry. I was looking through photos and thinking how many items I missed on my story. So I had Gracie with me, the lab, and so the roof box, the like rocket box or whatever, that ended up in the JK with all the gear in it, and then like the passenger front seat folded forward as far as it would go, with Gracie like she had enough room, but like it was tight for a 70-pound lab to like curl up on the front seat to accommodate, and it turns out that none of that needed to happen.
Nope.
Yep. Yeah.
But remember we pulled
we
off
all-
on that
we
side
all
road that was like
assumed-
the old. It was like an old way station or the old part of the highway we pulled off, and we like
Yep.
screwed around with it for a while, and then we're like, all right, we're just gonna leave everything here.
Yeah,
God.
yeah, we were gonna.
Yeah, we were about
assumed
ready.
That was
it a
after
trailer,
we
so
scraped all
took
the mud off our
tent.
trucks.
Yeah, we took the tent and we put it on Aaron's car and moved the box into the back of your car. And I had a Sharpie and I wrote free on the trailer because we were like, man, fuck this trailer. We're fucking leaving it. And Aaron fucking takes off down the highway and it just instantly starts fucking shaking all over the place again. Like, oh, well, it's Aaron's car that's the problem. Whoops.
And then I had a bolt.
Oh, I was gonna say I would like to, in defense of my Land Cruiser, point out that our last trip here a couple weeks back, I did not get stuck. So, just pointing that out, and no failures.
I don't think Robert got stuck either. So
No, he's got the
Yeah,
cheater
Robert
chassis
didn't
though.
get stuck.
I found the picture. July 8th, 2015, I got that tent.
all right, nice.
Yeah, so, yeah, because
I bolted
that
it
trip was
onto
late
the
in the
roof
year.
with the,
Yeah.
I bolted it onto the I got crossbars that bolt onto the cage. I put
Oh,
it
yeah.
on without the hard top.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good
Made
time.
a good top.
I feel like that had something to do with why you showed up on Saturday too, because it was raining that weekend,
Maybe because it was raining. Yeah, that made sense.
and so you switched to the hard top and then put the tent on that.
Yeah,
And
it
then the
might
hard
have been
top
that
never
it
left
took
after
me.
that.
Yeah, it really didn't. Yeah, it might have just been that it was like it. By the time I got somebody to come over and help me swap tops, it was like 9:30 at night, and I didn't feel like driving to the Ochocos that late.
That's fair.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah. Any other lovely memories?
man, I mean,
Oh man, I remember cows walking into our
Yep.
camp.
Oh yes, the herd of cows roaming
There was
through.
a herd of cows,
Oh.
and I remember the fire around the wheel, the cast
Wagon.
iron,
The wagon
like
wheel.
wagon wheel or whatever that was. That
I was
just
thinking about
would
that.
not cool off. We emptied every ounce of water we had for that stupid thing.
I was thinking about that earlier, and that wasn't the first. That wasn't the first year. The first year we made
Was that
our
a different
own
trip?
fire ring around the stump, and we burnt that
Oh,
stump
that's right.
the first night.
Yeah.
And the stump wouldn't go out
And
the first
then
time.
Then the next year when we came, that wagon wheel was there, like someone had brought
That's-
it there to be a fire ring.
That makes sense.
That's what it was. Yeah, we had trouble getting the roots of that stump to stop.
The first
Yeah.
trip must have been the trip that Luke brought his drone, and I
There's got to
remember
be a
it.
statute of limitations on
Oh.
that.
No, that wasn't the first trip.
That
We
was the
didn't have
second one
drone
then.
yet. Because
that would make sense.
when he had the drone,
That was the second one. That
yeah, that was
picture.
when Tyson had share and everything.
Got it.
That was the second year, and I have that picture pulled up right now. I'm looking right at it. That is a stock Disco 2 with a tent on top, a two-door
Oh, yeah.
XJ with a tent on top with a real scraggly cover, and a sand taco with a
wow.
tent on the bed.
That's Mike's. Yeah.
And Land Cruiser JK with cut fenders and the old beautiful 100 series with the
The
McMansion on top.
McMansion. Man, that was much later.
Yeah, Mike and the Sand Taco. I forgot Mike was a Sand Taco.
Oh, he was the original.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
decided to drive over the parking curb on the way home and puncture his
that's
tire.
right.
Oh, that was a different trip, but yeah.
Yeah, that was on our That was the first year of the album.
That was in the Colorado.
Oh, that's right. That wasn't out of the.
Yeah, but
No,
it
it
was the
wasn't.
Tacoma.
That wasn't the Colorado.
It wasn't
was the
Colorado.
Tacoma.
Oh, it was still
Yep.
a Tacoma.
And
That
then
was the Sand Taco.
he proceeded to put a dent in his tailgate by using a high lift jack on it and it falling over.
Ah, yes.
That was good. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that. We're getting quite the
Yeah, I can hear it.
I heard the rain earlier.
Crazy.